Welcome back. Today on Talking Cities, we have the popular author of The Tale of Two Cities, Charles Dickens, and with him is Cass. Let's give them a warm up.
You're definitely not.
Okay, let's get right on started. For Dickens, who is the protagonist of your novel?
Well, that would be the Dear Minnettes, as well as their kin and close friends.
Okay. And, Lucy, how would you describe Sidney Carton?
Well, he's a rather complicated individual. He's a coward, but brave for risking his life for me. But he has a noble heart that exemplifies his flaws.
Okay. Speaking of Carton, what do you think would have happened if Carton didn't take your husband's place?
Well, I think both my family and I would have have problems with other things that would have occurred, and we wouldn't have known what to do if he wasn't my husband, and obviously Charles wouldn't have lived.
This one's for Dickens. Why did you choose Lucy to marry Darnay instead of Carton?
Well, if she doesn't marry Darnay, then the whole plot basically collapses. Madame Defarge has no reason to despise her, so the central conflict is completely lost. The resolution and the conclusion would have to be rewritten. There's just no point to the story.
Okay. Speaking of character, who do you think in your novel underwent the most change?
Probably Sidney Carton, because he starts off as a hopeless drunk, and he evolves throughout the novel into he becomes sober, and he also starts to feel like he has self-worth. He doesn't hate himself anymore, and he thinks that his death has a lasting impact.
Speaking of character changes, Miss Pross, how do you see Dr. Manette change throughout the novel?
Over the time that I have known him, he has developed a sense of pride for himself. He has also become very supportive, and he has gained his sanity back, which he had previously lost in prison.
That's good. Now that I have you talking, Dickens, between Pross and Defarge, why did you end it the way that you did?
Well, the demise of Madame Defarge serves more than just the obvious purpose. It's evidently necessary so Lucy can escape France, but with her dies the reign of terror that she brought about, and it also provides a satisfactory conclusion, because without her death, then the conflict isn't resolved, so everyone's confused.
Miss Pross, what do you think might have happened had you not been Defarge?
I fear that if the event described not had taken place, me and everyone that had tried to escape would have been dead, and I did what I had to do to protect myself and Lucy.
Speaking of Lucy, Miss Pross has protected you before, correct?
Yes, before my father was recalled to life, I knew nothing of his existence, and my mother died when I was a small child. So Miss Pross has raised me as her own, and I very much appreciate her.
Well, that's sweet. Miss Pross, how do you think the demise of Madame Defarge affected your followers?
I'm sure that once they realized that they had lost their leader, they would start to doubt their cause and probably would have realized their wrongs. Her family and friends probably would have mourned for her, but others of the revolution focused more on the aspects of the revolution and not on politics.
Speaking of your followers, Ms. Defarge, can you explain to us who the Vengeance is?
Well, you see, the Vengeance is not only one of my youngest followers, but also my most loyal. She is completely faithful to the cause and would do anything that I ask of her.
Interesting. Speaking of other second characters, Dickens, can you explain what Stryver's role in the novel is?
Well, Mr. Stryver's dominating personality really contributes to the transformation of Sidney Carton. Without his directness over him, his submissiveness isn't emphasized, so it's harder to realize his transformation from jackal to lion. And he also illuminates Mr. Laurier's loyalty to the Minnettes when pursuing Lucy. He tells Stryver not to.
Mr. Laurier is quite a very loyal character. Lucy, can you kind of describe what happened once you arrived at Telson's Bank in Paris?
Well, I was under the most dreadful circumstances when I arrived in France. My husband had been in prison, and all these things went erratic, and everything wasn't going as it should have planned. So somehow I had to leave him from prison and try to save him. And other people, like my father, had to help him.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Can you describe to us what life was like when Darnay was in prison?
Well, I was very anxious and scared, and I didn't know what bad things were going to happen next. And all I could think about was my family and him, and how things went so wrong, and I didn't know what bad things were going to happen next. I was just very scared.
Speaking of bad things, what is your opinion on the revolution in France?
Well, everything was crazy. Many people had died, and I didn't know when someone was going to die next, even my family, and everything was just so crazy that I just began to get paranoid.
Speaking of the revolution, Dickens, how do you justify the deaths of all the nobles and barons?
Well, after the revolution has begun, it's essential that everyone understands that the oppressed have become the oppressor. Otherwise, the impact of the revolution is lost. So all of the deaths are necessary for both the plot development and the comprehension.
Okay. Speaking of your novel and some of the literary devices I found in it, can you assess some of the value of the symbolism that is so often seen in your novel?
Well, the symbolism emphasizes both the characterization and the plot because it just stresses the revolution and what it's changed France, like the color red, blood in the wine, fate the farmer, death the wood sawyer, and others.
I see. So while we're on literary devices, why did you use the modus of doubles?
But with the introduction of duality, the character traits are more explicitly expressed, and their shifts are more easily recognized, and just their traits in general you can see more as they're opposited by another person. So, for example, Madame Defarge and Lucy. Lucy's compassion is highlighted through Madame Defarge's ruthlessness. So both of them together just help with comprehension and understanding the complexity of the characters.
Since you mentioned Madame Defarge, Madame Defarge, what exactly is your relationship with your husband? Because he seems to be quite different from you.
Well, see, though he can be very cowardly and very weak and very useless at times, he's also very useful to me. So, for example, I need him to do things that I physically / just don't want to do. So, for example, he leads the men, he rallies everyone, he does my dirty work, and he makes sure whoever I found else is dead. I, on the other hand, am the brains behind the operation. I write the list, and I make sure that my revolution runs smoothly.
So it's kind of like your minion.
Yeah, and while I rally the women, he rallies the men.
Do you truly love him?
That's a private question right there.
Okay. Okay, well, we're almost running out of time, so this is going to be the last question. Dickens, if you could change any character in your novel, who would it be?
Well, I've often thought about it, but I can't seem to formulate an answer because I feel like each character that I've written contributes to the plot in a way that if I changed it, it would alter what they contribute. So I wouldn't change anything.
Well, I thank you guys for coming out. It was a pleasure to have all of you today. That's it for today, folks. And this is your last episode of